What's up, Toka? What's up, Otakus? It's your tour guide here. Um, it's Monday night, and yeah, it's been a busy weekend. Well, it was a busy weekend. Happy President's Day, by the way. Um, but the good thing about this channel, I realized, you know, so I had two assignments this weekend, and I knew it was going to take up a lot of my time. Um, and I had to have them both done, one by Sunday. I had to submit one of the assignments by Sunday, and the second assignment had to be done by the end of today because I'm presenting it tomorrow. And I got the first assignment finished, you know, like Saturday afternoon. I submitted it on Saturday afternoon, kind of revised it and, kind of resent it. Um, but yeah, it's there waiting to be kind of graded and all that. And then the the assignment that was due today, I did a portion of it last night, um, kind of a big portion of it last night. A lot of the actual materials that I need to put together, and then I kind of um, wrote up the lesson planning earlier this afternoon. Um, so it's done. But the reason I kind of got a jump start on everything, I didn't really procrastinate or, you know, today I almost was guilty of it because I only had a little like a form to submit and I could have done it in the morning, but I kind of put it off until like mid afternoon. Um, but yeah, it got done. And part of the motivation to submit everything, get everything done was to actually just have time to like kind of relax, uh, before tomorrow's presentation and just be done with everything. So I didn't have to really think about, like work into the night and kind of gruel over it. I got everything done, you know, in the afternoon. And then now I've just been kind of like, uh, I had dinner and then I was just getting ready to jump on with you guys. So, um, yeah, it's, I think not like clearing my plate of stuff so that I do have time to stream at the designated times I want to stream. Like again, we want to do the weekly reading the comics and we want to do the weekly top 10 list. And so far so good. I thought maybe I'd take a little hiatus just to help focus on my coursework. But I'm finding that um, trying to have bandwidth for everything, trying to do my assignments and turn them in, kind of do them sooner rather than later so that I do have a little bit of uh, time to do stuff like this has been pretty good. So, yeah, the fact that it's just the desire to go on, each week and kind of stream my little YouTube session is has been motivating me to really stay on top of my work, not get too far behind. And I'm, you know, I kind of understand the pacing of the courses and the coursework now. I think, moving forward, um, obviously I'm going to do some reading tonight. Um, but moving forward, I feel really good about um, staying on top of everything, because that was kind of a big variable um, when I was as I was coming into the course. But having done it for a week, um, you know, obviously there's still a lot of material, there's still a lot of work to do each and every day. Um, but having again using my weekend time wisely, so that I can have um, time to do this on Monday and as well as Friday has been pretty good. So, with that being said, we're going to get right to reading our comic books. And I may end up, kind of going through the process of what we're going to do with the collection, because it's still kind of unclear what we're doing. And I'm not going to make any major. Well, we'll talk about it. So we'll read the comic and we'll talk about kind of where my mindset is and how I'm planning for uh, at least where I want to be come summer, because um, I think I do need to really think about actively kind of purging the collection of stuff I don't really need, to the point where, like, if we were to just keep a downsized collection, we could do that. Or if we had to move books to Japan, we could do that as well. So we'll cover that as we get going here. All right, so let's get to the reading. Today's comic book is Man of Steel 22. Now, we got to go back to uh, the sort of the late 80s, early 90s period. Um, uh, and we got to talk about how I think the 90s brought a lot in. So a lot of things happened in the early 90s, late 80s and early 90s, around race. And one of the emerging, uh, I think one of the emerging issues of the day was the representation of Black Americans in popular media and the rise of hip hop culture. Um, when I was growing up as a young boy, I was into uh, like all kids, like Michael Jackson. R&B music was big. I remember Cool It Now, right? New Edition. And then you started getting into like breakdancing, um, kind of urban culture, and this really the popularization of the urban music translated into well kind of correlated with the rise of like uh, basketball, sports, Black American prominence in professional sports, which historically was there, but it just became like it was uh, by the 80s it was just dominated by Black Americans. So you had uh, dominance in sports, you had the rise of this music and sort of creative outlet for urban issues, urban voices being heard for the first time, the point of view from their perspective. And so by the late 80s, it was kind of, like hip hop um, was a real force. It was really the voice and music of my generation, Gen X. And then you had these race riots in LA over the Rodney King beating. And it really fractured race relations between the Asian American, like the Korean American community and the Black community there in Los Angeles County. And, you know, uh, a lot of things were happening um, with America's sort of race relations and urban kind of social unrest. And so I think, by the time the early 90s hit, you had this real awareness in the Black community around Black identity, uh, Black history. You obviously had those two elements playing a big part in uh, the rise of a director like Spike Lee. Spike Lee was a visionary in relation to this period and kind of chronicling that through film with his with very thought provoking works. Um, but yeah, obviously one of his paramount films was Malcolm X, regarding the life of uh, the political activist. Um, and so yeah, it was just a kind of a period of enlightenment for, I think, America, thinking along kind of racial identities and racial justice and the inequalities that these years of slavery, years of segregation, years of just kind of social segregation have had created for people of color. And so these were all kind of like, again, issues that were bubbling up to the surface. And but it was really in a lot of ways academic. It was just being in the moment of that, and just getting a broader education about the history of this country and how how certain things were framed uh, from an American perspective, a white American perspective, versus how things should have been framed from uh, a true historical standpoint. And I think the true social historians and historians understand that everything revolved around this system of injustice toward uh, Black Americans. And so, and that again, that system continues to operate. It hasn't really disappeared or gone anywhere, but you know, these forces of progress, either you progress toward the ideals um, of all men are created equal, or you regress toward um, a system that benefits a certain class over another. So um, the 90s were pivotal in, again, I think, defining us as a country, kind of reshaping everybody's uh, kind of educating people, right? Educating people on um, the diversity in this country, and you definitely kind of saw that throughout uh, mass media as well, and as well as in comic books. And this is really kind of where I want to lead in with this issue. Is this is one of the Supermen we're introduced to in the reign is a Black American, um, and this is really a story about uh, his role as a Superman, like how he views, and race plays a big part in shaping, this character. So we're gonna get right into it. We'll get going. Here is the uh, die cut cover. So under the shape of the S, we have here John Henry Steele. Hey, Mr. Johnson, tell us the story of John Henry. Not again. The guy ain't even real. He's real, Zoid. My great granddaddy worked right alongside him. He's the one who told me the story. You see, back in the old days, men called steel drivers used 10-pound hammers to pound steel drills into rock to make holes for blasting explosives. Then one day, the managers brought in an experimental steam-driven steel drill. They claimed the engine, called the Inky Pod, could outpound any man alive. Well, John Henry laughed at that and bet he could beat that Inky Pod in a race. He lifted a 20-pound hammer in each hand and he started pounding. Half an hour later, he drilled two 7-foot holes almost twice as far as the steam engine. He's like dead. He pounded so hard a blood vessel in his brain burst and he died. He may be dead, Zoid, but he won. I don't see why John Henry was such a big deal anyway. You've got a point, Keith. I still don't see what's so great about that John Henry dude. He went up against something everybody knew he couldn't beat, and he beat it all the same. He's cool, sort of like Superman. Oh, wham! Mr. Johnson could make any sense of the dude seem like Superman. You've been fooled by production values, man. Johnson's voice sounds like Darth Vader. Oh, wham, croom. Ah, Zoid. Keith Henry, move. It's some kind of gang fight. We got caught in the middle. They killed Zoid. It's impossible. Please, Lord, let it be impossible. Yo, Dutch, big guy came out of nowhere. He's after us. Probably one of theirs. Yeah, right, like he's gonna catch a Mustang on foot. He's cut across the empty parking lot, man. He's jumping over them heaps. You got the Toastmaster, man. Just pop him. Yeah, I got the... Hey, the gun, give it to me. It's impossible, man. He's breaking the gun. Peel, I'm off, man. You got it, bro. Just like a banana. Oof. Interfering punk ain't dead. We come back and finish him. Teach him not to mess with the sharks. Secret weapons, destroyed prototypes. What are they doing in Metropolis? The nurses here been looking after you, Henry? Mm-hmm. I just bet they have. Myra? She got a haircut and put on her dress-up clothes to come see you. Keith, Keith, honey, you hush now. How's your back, Henry? Hey, I just realized your name's Henry Johnson, like John Henry backwards. Why? Never mind short stuff. How's Zoid's family taken his death? Well, as can be expected, when I think how I hurried you kids home, I practically shoved you in the middle of that firefight. It's not your fault. You didn't know. I just wish Superman was alive. Superman saved me a couple of times. He wouldn't let something like that happen. He, he, Keith, Superman saved me once too. I was at my job working the high steel, but I couldn't keep my mind off some bad things that had happened. That's when my friend Pete Skywalker had been pulling a lot of overtime, things I figured were my fault. I was sort of wondering if I was even deserved to be alive, and he caught his foot and tripped. I grabbed a cable and swung out and got him and managed to grab Pete and got him onto the platform. Tonk. That's when the hook holding the cable came loose. That's when I started to fall. Those things I'd done, things I was sorry for, flashed through my mind. Figure I'd never get a chance to put things right now. That's when Superman saved me. I said, I owe you my life. Then make it count for something. I knew then I meant to repay him. Long wasn't long after that Doomsday smashed his way into Metropolis. The fight moved nearby, and the foreman closed everybody off the building. I saw the fight, and I knew what I had to do. I had to stop Doomsday. I had to save Superman. Something happened then, an explosion, they say, caused by a ruptured gas main. The building fell, buried me in the unfinished basement. All I could think of was, this can't happen. I can't die. I owe my life to Superman. I was buried quite a while. Don't remember much of it. Fog, angels and demons. I think my granddaddy, he didn't want me to die. Funny. I must have been a little out of my head because I clawed my way out still thinking I had to stop Doomsday. Wednesday, glad to be out of the hospital. Doc said by rights I should have died that time too. Got more lives than a cat these days. Zoid's dead. Like it or not, I helped kill him. How can I make a thing like that right? Superman. I owe him a life. He said make it count. Metropolis needs a Superman. Horoscope said this'd be my lucky day, and here you are. Welcome home. Come in and have some tea, and I'll tell you more. It's all in the cards. No thanks, Rosie. Last thing I need is somebody looking into my future. How come you're going down to that basement? You're the fortune teller, Rosie. You tell me. That Johnson hero's been out of the hospital about a week now. Time to bring him a little homecoming present. John Henry fought the machine and won. What I'm fighting is a deadlier kind of machine. One I helped put in motion. One I'm gonna stop now, even if it kills me. What's he doing down there? Don't matter. 5 seconds from now, he's gonna be dead. Boom. Firebomb hit the oil reserve. Flames everywhere. That's Rosie. Eee! Her door is locked. Get back from the door. Boom. The Man of Steel is coming through. Who? You're the psychic. You tell me. Oh, I know who you are. What you don't know is the hearths are in there, trapped on the second floor in the back. Thanks, I'll take care of it. He said, Thanks, I'll take care of it, he said. He carried the others out of the building, and then he was gone. I'm a professional, you understand? I see the future. I knew all along Superman would return, and now he has. Not necessarily in his own body, of course. Have you heard of walk-in spirit? Of a walk-in spirit? A what? Why don't you let me take you far away from this, away from all of this? It's your favorite rabble-rousing union wrangler. Aren't you glad to see me? Jeb. Jeb Friedman, what are you doing here? I just got back from Houston. Hey, what's this, babe? Waterworks? I heard about Clark. I'm sorry, sweetie. He was an okay guy. But the officer was serious. You want to come away with me? Give me a break, Jeb. When have you ever been serious? Oh, well, if I can't lure you to the Bahamas, how about a cup of coffee at the Hobbs Bay Grill? Gangs armed with super weapons clashed over turf in Hobbs Bay, a psychic saved from a burning building by a man she claims was Superman. Occasionally, a body is abandoned by its spirit, but is not yet uninhabitable, and another spirit, whose body has been lost, moves in. This is what happened to Superman. The facts are clear to anyone with a shred of clairvoyance. The man who saved me today is the Man of Steel. Every time I turn on the TV, there's another Superman sighting. This is the weirdest one yet. Her building was bombed in apparent retaliation, Mr. Luthor, against a man called Henry Johnson, a local who got caught in the middle of the turf war between the Sharks and Bloods. What about the super weapons those gangs are using? I don't know, sir. They aren't ours. Whose then? I don't know. Then find out, Happerson. That's what I pay you for. Find out. That's it, the Mustang the Sharks used to grind me into the pavement. The car's driven by the enforcer who killed Zoid. It's stopping high rollers getting out. I could take them out now. No, better wait, see where they're going. Might be visiting our weapons supplier. If not, it's still more folks to talk to, more to answer my questions, more dealers who will soon be off the streets. Rock and CNH capped up and ready to travel. Blood Mule said your stuff's garbage, Dutch. How could he, Just a sales meeting to drop these wheeler dealers and get some answers. Krakoom. It's the Man of Steel. Do 'em. I got him, Dutch. Blam, blam. Not with that gun, pinhead. This. Wham. I'll hold him for you, Dutch. Wham. Thanks, Mucus. Chalk up another 2 to the Toastmaster. Toastmasters BG. Boss. My design. All those deaths. My fault. Don't look, John. I should have been there. I should have been here. All my fault. The BG-80s shouldn't have gone out, son, but they've been tested now. Well tested, effective, son. Very effective. It's some kind of gang fight. We got caught in the middle. Zoid, they killed Zoid. So many guns, so many killed. Not anymore. The deaths end here. Dutch. Thum, thum, thum. Thum, thum, thum. Where'd you get this piece, Dutch? I knew Dutch would be trouble. Glad I decided to keep an eye on him. Where'd it come from? The White Rabbit. That voice, like the wrath of God. I know that voice. That's John Henry Irons. He's the Superman they call the Man of Steel. But what's he doing here? Makes a good bedtime story, Dutch. Now, how about the truth? He makes a formidable opponent. His efforts are already cutting into my profits. Better kill him while I can. It's the truth. It's the bunny. Kapok. You had a beat on the Man of Steel, Rabbit. Why'd you pop Dutch? Dutch was singing his heart out, Lug, and if there's one thing I hate, it's a pigeon. But the Man of Steel, he's potentially more profitable than both of you combined. He might listen to reason or to blackmail. There's no point in killing him yet. There are 4 guys out there who claim to be Superman. The kid who says he's a clone of Superman, the cyborg who claims he's Superman rebuilt, the fascist in the shades, And the Man of Steel, the fortune teller, said that his Superman returned in a different body. She called him a walk in spirit. Can something like that actually be possible? It's not possible, Lois. How can it be possible? Come here and listen to me. Superman is dead, and Clark is dead, but I'm alive, and so are you. And right now, you need somebody to take care of you. Grab your jacket. We'll talk about it more over dinner. Martha, Martha, come here. You gotta come see this. It's like I told you, it's our boy. He's come back from the dead. WLEX camera crew on the scene of the shootout got these dramatic shots as the Man of Steel stepped into the middle of a firefight in his one-man fight to ban illegal weapons from the streets of Metropolis. It can't be, can it? The person supplying those weapons is a newcomer to Metropolis, Mr. Luther, who is called the White Rabbit. Why White Rabbit? Unknown, sir. Perhaps it's because she has so many bolt holes. She's never been caught, sir. It took me 24 hours just to learn her street name. The White Rabbit's a woman, then. Interesting. I wonder if the Man of Steel's quarrel with her is personal. For now, we'll let him handle her. But I want to talk to him, Happerson. It might be useful to finally have a Man of Steel in my pocket. So for these filler issues are pretty cool. That is pretty cool art. Who's the artist on this one? Let's take a look. Penciler is Eddie Newell. Inker Mike Barrero. Barrero. Yeah, this is part of the arc, but we're just gonna pass through this one, and we'll pick up next Monday. With Superman 78. Yeah, we're finally getting to Cyborg Superman here. And sorry, these are a little out of order. I'm going by the order that they were placed in this like folder here. But it looks like we kind of we'll get to all the Superman, and hopefully the reading order. Probably should have checked on the reading order, but yeah, this is our book we're going to cover for next week. So we'll continue next week again here next Monday, same time, same Superman time, same Superman channel. And we'll get to this book, Superman 78. All right, so yeah, just brought reading this kind of gives you a little glimpse as to kind of stuff that's I guess was in the mid 90s. There was a lot of street violence, gang violence that was happening. I think some of it was like, it was definitely real. We had, drive-by shootings and things here in Tacoma, where I was growing up and living. And, they were kind of happening all throughout urban centers throughout the United States. So I don't want to minimize that issue, but I also feel like it kind of was exacerbated a little bit through popular media that like black youth, there's some they're gangbangers, like it just kind of got to this point where like no, not not every black youth or not every, like kid living in in the ghetto or the hood is not armed with some kind of gun and out to like rob you and do all that. Obviously, there were those elements, and that within the community, I think there were a lot of people who wore that kind of badge with the, you know, like it was power because you were walking around the community, kind of just intimidating people, and that's obviously um, the unfortunate. It's an unfortunate um, result of um, that environment, but it kind of just uh, made I don't know, it made it seem like it was a bigger issue than it actually was. You had these sort of isolated kind of incidents being kind of magnified as um, the issue of the day for this community, right? And I just feel like that representation was a little off. It's like um, obviously it's disturbing that these kinds of trends were you're seeing young black youth, male black youth, just kind of taking each other's lives, unfortunately. But it kind of was like um, kind of had the media fueling it, and I don't know, it just had this feel like it was fueling itself, kind of, like um, the popularization of like gangster rap being like anti-establishment was kind of fueling this sort of youth. And you see it today too, like you see these kids like just getting a kick out of um, being violent, kind of doing things, getting away with it, doing unlawful things. um, that really hasn't changed. It just it's always there, and you just unfortunately see these horrific crimes being committed by real young people, and it's unfortunate. um, like homicides, like some of it's related to gangs, some of it's related to drugs, but it's always um, unfortunate when you see it happen in the community. So it's yeah, Crips and Bloods, right? Those things were always those were that was a big thing, and obviously it's toned down a lot. You just don't see like people driving around with guns and trying to shoot each other anymore. But it was one of those unfortunate uh, things to come out of the '90s with the popularization of rap, with the popularization of you know um, money, guns, power, those kinds of like this kind of idea that was being promoted in hip hop. Like that you had to be some kind of thug, get street respect, and do all these things like questionable things. It was being kind of romanticized when it really is not a it's not a viable way out for these young peoples. Um, just yeah, it was that one of that part of the '90s. I think it was looking back was really just kind of tragic that you had essentially kids going around killing other kids. So that's hopefully we've learned from that, but sometimes I think we haven't learned anything. It's just like another generation, another. It just takes a different form sometimes, but you're seeing some craziness you're always seeing some kind of craziness in the news, and it's sad and unfortunate. Just hope everybody. I mean, it just starts with, you know, starts with just like, it really starts with just unfortunately, it starts with just opportunities. This country needs to provide better opportunities for people, because and also just you know, there's just a lot of trauma, I think, baked into our history. And I'll be the first to admit, like, growing up where I went to school, um, my teachers, they were just, a bunch of them were basket cases. They shouldn't have been teaching. And they made school kind of miserable for a person like me. Fortunately, it didn't impact my ability in school. I still got good grades and did. That was, a lot of it was driven by my parents wanting me to do well in school. So I kind of really had to apply myself. But it just it you know yeah, the community I lived in was wrought with a lot of people just dealing with their issues, man. It was a working class community, and I love it. It's a small town community, it was the real folks. Um, but there were a lot of like just crazy things that went on in my neighborhood by my actual like literal neighbors, like bomb squads being called, and like guys holding their children for, like, hostage, and like that kind of stuff really happened. One of my neighbors just lost it and committed suicide, Vietnam vet, um, and traumatized his entire family. Uh, like, would beat his wife, and like I'd go over there and play, and he'd be shooting birds and like in the yard, and then he just like kill all these birds that were just like rotting there in his yard for fun. The guy was just completely crazy, and I was allowed to go over to their house and play with their kids, and then that whole ordeal happened, and you know it's just we just never talk about it. We just never talked about it, but um yeah, stuff like that. I mean, that was just like the stuff you endured in my town. And I don't think my town is any different from any other town in America. So I mean, you do the math, right? You got a lot of people, think just a lot of broken people who maybe don't get the help they need, or they don't get they just don't know how to handle life and manage life, and they can crack and break. And so it's just one of those these kinds of traumas, the people's lived in traumas really can play a big role in leading to a bad home, a bad family environment, um, and that can play into you know kids ending up in the streets, kids ending up running away from home, and in bad situations, and then you have people taking advantage of that. Which is why the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing with the pedophiles and the system of like you know child sex trafficking and all that. That's just like it's the worst of the worst. And the fact that these billionaires are have been behind stuff like that, it just is really sickening, just absolutely sickening. And but we lived at we want to think we want to kind of escape to this ideal that there's a super guy, Superman, who's just going around rounding up all the, hey Ron, how you doing, man? Right? Yeah, yeah, we owe our Vietnam vets a lot of gratitude, but we also owe them uh, to take care of them. We owe it to them to take care of them, mentally and physically. And um, you know, I do hope. I know our government tries, but it's one of those things like people fall through the cracks, and you know, yeah, it screwed up a lot of people, and yeah, it's like war's not good. It messes up a lot of people. People uh, both holding the gun and on the opposite end of the gun. So it's just something we should avoid at all costs. But you know, for the people our government sends to war, we got to take care of them. Because when they come back, they just you know, and what it does to the family members who I feel like that's kind of swept under the rug a lot of times. I know it was done with my family because my family, um, my dad, uh, he had to, he was a, he was a, he had to escape the North as a refugee, and uh, he got separated with his family members, and his father was killed by the communists. And, you know, I never knew that history because he never talked about it. Um, Growing up, I didn't know, but then like I had I was kind of working, and had a chance to talk to my aunt. My aunt shared a lot of those details, and then my mom also, as we got older, shared kind of the details of the stuff they endured, and it's tough. It's like the Korean War is you just had a lot of displacement and people kind of fighting over just food and resources, and you just saw the worst in people because everybody was out. It was really a situation where if you had enough, it was like people would have helped and stuff, but there was nothing, right? It's like it was every man for himself during wartime. So you just really had this um, kind of bringing an environment that brought out the worst in people, and that's the thing. Like that's the thing. I think war brings out the worst in people. Um, you know, and it takes a lot of time to kind of heal and um, kind of overcome, or I guess progress from a point of having nothing to like, okay, we can kind of, you know, we made it, so we can kind of put that all behind us, kind of mentality. But definitely my parents are the children of that trauma, and you know they tried their best. They tried their best with my sister and I, but you know life is messy. So, and but that's life. So I think some of the I think why I gravitate toward like these stories and comic books is because it really paints some idea. You know, it paints people. It paints the ideals that we have, right, uh, through the characters. So it really kind of shows a way, right, that this is what we should strive for in at least some of the characters in the comic books. Um, and that's always, I think that's always a good thing in a story, in a comic book, to kind of have um, people doing the right thing, uh, even just for doing for the sake of doing the right thing. You know, that's really what heroism comes down to. I'm sorry to hear that, Ron. Yeah, I think, yeah, I think Vietnam. If you've met or talked to Vietnam vets, um, they they're just a quiet bunch, you know. I mean, they're themselves, but there's almost this sort of like, I want to say like a schism there, because don't bring don't bring up the war around them for sure. I mean, I guess if they're in the process, if it's to talk about the war to kind of process it and heal themselves, I guess it's good. But like, yeah, I mean, that's like tearing off a band-aid, man. That's just like, you know, you don't want to, you don't want to like, and then that's the thing. Like, I it's you kind of when you're out and about, you know you can kind of see the people that have been shaped by something really tragic, like, or traumatic, right? You know people that have been kind of shaped by that, and you know, I think a lot of us who read comic books, uh, or who kind of like gravitate toward comic books and things like that. Um, I think a lot of us are kind of in the same boat, right? We're kind of like, this was an outlet for us, right? Uh, it was something where we could read and just kind of escape from whatever environment we're in. Not to say I was like abused or anything like that. I want to make that clear. I think I had a pretty positive upbringing, relatively positive upbringing, but I definitely, like, didn't grow up uh, with money. We were poor. Um, I didn't have a lot of fun, interesting things to do when I got home, except sit in front of the TV like most people, listen to the radio, or read comic books, or read books in general. Right? So, um, yeah, it's kind of like you just kind of had to uh, do what you could. And for me, comic books, they just provide that nostalgia of like, yeah, I remember reading this book and really being kind of captivated by the story, kind of transported to thinking about, what is a hero, what heroes do, being inspired by these stories of heroism. So those are all kind of like cool memories. And yeah, again, this story here about John Henry Irons, um, Steel eventually I think became like a movie that starred Shaquille O'Neal. That was also like a '90s movie, and or was it Shazam or something? It was some movie where Shaquille O'Neal was in it. I thought he played Steel or something. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but where did they touch you? No, nothing like that, Ron. um, yeah, we didn't have the most loving, caring household. Let's put it that way. There was a good deal of like, you know, punishments and things like that. Nothing, like it wasn't physical abuse. It was just like, you um, a lot of verbal kind of like you have to do this, you have to do that. Strict, very strict sort of upbringing. So um, that's not the way I want to be with my son. So I'm kind of taking the opposite approach, but I do find myself kind of getting emotional and losing my cool from time to time, and I really hate it when I do that. So I want to try to be as nurturing as I can, understanding, patient and understanding as I can. It's sometimes really hard. Sometimes really hard. I'm sure all of us struggle with it, but it's kind of what I want for the kind of dad I want to model after. And yeah, my dad, he's I love him, and I think he's great. But I think also that he just has a lot of trauma there that he has never addressed, and I just I can't have that conversation with him. Like it's just something he's had to process and come to terms with. I think every person does that, right? Um, when you deal with something out of your control that's tragic and is a loss, uh, you just have to kind of process it in your own way. And that, my dad hopefully has done. I think he's a lot better today than he was maybe 20 years ago. But I just feel like it's a process for him, and um, he's dealing with it a lot better than I probably would have. Let's just put it that way. Like, had I gone through this stuff my dad went through, I probably would not be as together as him. So in that sense, he's definitely. But uh, that being said, like I kind of wish he never went through that, because at the same time, it's something he's had to kind of deal with, and he definitely has um, his kind of anger management issues as well. So, but that's just I think a thing a lot of people deal with. It's not just him, but a lot of people out there um, struggle with controlling their emotions, right? Harsh words, let's just put it that way. Yeah, I think, we grew up, Ron, you probably grew up in a generation where, yeah, where even like, so in school, they would never, these days, you would never um, be touched in school. They just can't touch you, right? But when I was a kid, I remember uh, getting swatted by the principal. Like I was doing some, creating a lot of issues and problems at school, and principal. I went into the principal's office and he had this big paddle, and you'd get it. Never, it didn't do it to like it hurt. It was just more psychological kind of terror. But yeah, you just kind of lean over and he'd give you a little smack and then you'd be on your way. But that stuff happened like when I was a kid. And so it's like, that's the kind of, there, remedies that we had for kids back then. It's not the best, not the best, I don't think it's the best approach. Yeah, swatting, right? We got swats for bad behavior, right? That was the thing when I was a kid still. So, right. That's exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of that. I think there's just a lot of kid, child related stuff every kid goes through. And some of it we can process and deal with, and we learn how to become adults, and we learn how to kind of compartmentalize stuff like that. A lot of us, some of us, turn to like drugs and alcohol and just kind of lose it. And so it's just, and that could be any. I mean, that could have been me. That's the thing about the multiverse type thing. Like we all have a path, right? And at any moment along that path, any one of us could have diverged and uh, taken the wrong route in life. And sometimes I feel like I'm still tottering on that, the verge of that. Sometimes there's a lot of things to worry about, for sure, with a family, wife, and kids, and all that. So, right, yeah, you don't want your kids getting swatted or anything at school. That just it's that's something that they did away with, and that's a good thing. Boy Scouts, that so yeah, I mean, obviously, Boy Scouts is a great thing, if it's not being run by, if your scoutmaster is not a pedophile, hopefully. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Like uh, I think Boy Scouts teaches a lot of um, good lessons, right? Um, yeah, I remember, but I never got to do Boy Scouts, but a bunch of my friends were in Boy Scouts, and they always had cool stories and stuff. So that's good. Yeah, Ron, because if you weren't in the Boy Scouts, I'm sure you'd have been doing drive-bys and doing drugs, selling drugs. Yeah, there's a lot of I mean, they disbanded the Boy Scouts, didn't they? Didn't they go bankrupt or something? I don't know. There was a big scandal because there's so much abuse in the Boy Scouts. Kind of like the Catholic Church and Boy Scouts. It attracted all the all the like the pedophiles. Anyway, um, all right, so let's transition out of talking about uh, trauma and all that. I do want to just touch upon what we just read. Again, we got the Black Superman now in effect. Is He's called Steel, and Steel is an interesting character because that's right. Steele's an interesting character because, again, like I mentioned, you saw a lot of uh, Black voices, Black identities, people wanting to tell tell their stories, right? That tell stories of life in like urban America, some of the issues that the cities deal with, and that's again, those are issues that are still there, right? Crime, drugs, violence, um, and here you have again a product of the urban environment, a man who's was saved by obviously has the foundations of being selfless, of being a hero, coming out of this environment, and now wanting to, with Superman's absence, kind of take his place and do right by his community. And you know, Steel continues to be, I think, a character in DC continuity. Like all the characters here um, have a place in the DC continuity. They continue to kind of, uh, pop up here and there in the. I think outside of, I think even the Eradicators kind of been in and out, right? Um, but Steels is an important story because again, you have this whole crew of like white writers, white illustrators. You don't really see the diversity. You're starting to see it in comic books now, but it was largely dominated by, white men. But then you had uh, more and more Asian Americans kind of pop into the creative field of it, and then you had Black Americans come in, you had Latinos come in, you had women, so it just became a more diverse creative field. And now, like today, I mean, it's like you got so many voices, so many representations in comic books, not just for the readership, but also for the opportunities for people to make and create comic books, which is great. It's really kind of a book like this, just by telling these stories, it highlights the fact like, look, we don't have a Black writer or a Black creator here at DC to write the story for us. It just kind of became apparent like we need to cultivate that. And I know I know you know if you look at the creators of this book, right? Louise Simonson, she's always been a big advocate for um, training, people who are new to the industry, like just training young people who want to get into this field and creative field. She's a big educator of comic book writing, comic book storytelling. Um, so both, Louise and her husband have always been at the forefront of being educators as well as creators. And I think that's part of why this the comic book fraternity, and I don't mean comic book community. I mean the fraternity of people who work in comic books. We're talking like you are a DC editor or a DC writer or a DC illustrator, right? Or even a Marvel uh, creator. These creators, once they become established in the industry and they reach a certain amount of seniority for just having put out incredible work after incredible work. Once you kind of reach that status, you kind of pivot from you kind of let younger people have their opportunities, right? And you are more of a kind of a mentor, right? You first off, you have a fan base that you have to connect and engage with, right? So you are just kind of doing shows and meeting your fans and doing that, but also, being on panels and doing interviews and all this. But within those moments of like just sharing, you know, your life and career, you're imparting knowledge, you're imparting um, guidance and wisdom to the next generation of creators through your words and hopefully through your engagements with in terms of educating, right? Just going to you know these schools where they teach you how to become an artist or teach you how to become a writer. Those technical schools, those schools are literally uh, ground zero for these creators to go to and kind of uh, be the instructors for the next generation. And yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be in a classroom. It could probably be these days. You got a lot of guys like Jim Lee used to be. He doesn't do it now. Used to be just a couple years ago. Jim was big on YouTube doing like a drawing session where he'd be training like online with as many like aspiring artists just kind of coming in and seeing Jim do his process. That's teaching right there. And I feel like with social media and the channels that we have, it's easier than ever to like have an audience and kind of if you've had success in comic books, to share what made you successful. Obviously, reading it can go a lot of ways to showing people how it's done, but to be able to talk about it as well is, I think, important. So, shout out to the Simonsons. Right. Yeah, I haven't technically read Steel the miniseries. I mean, this whole arc is about as far as I got to in terms of reading. And to be honest, like Steel, I just felt like he wasn't my favorite of these Reign of Superman. Like first of all, I didn't really have a favorite among these four, but in terms of like the character, I really wanted to like. I was really intrigued by was the cyborg Superman. Like I just wanted to know, okay, is this guy good or bad? Like let's figure that out because it was kind of revolved around whether this guy was like a was legitimately Superman with a cyborg body, or if it was some scheme, right? If it was some like robot or something. So that was that held my interest. So I thought Black Steel Superman was cool, but it definitely wasn't like somebody I wanted to continue reading about or doing like when he had his own solo series and stuff. It wasn't like a book I was like clamoring to get and all that. So I'm with you there a little bit, Ron. But yeah, I keep losing my train of thought. So what I want to mention is again, this story in the mid '90s. I think you know you had these moments in comic books, especially in the Bronze Age. You had a lot of artists and creatives focusing on the issues uh, of the day. And in the Bronze Age, it was definitely, desegregation, right? Recognizing that Black Americans weren't given fair opportunities. They were living in an unfair system, right? You saw a lot of those stories come out of the 70s. 80s, not so much. But then in the 90s, again, it kind of pops up here as well. Um, like I said, sort of racial identity politics. Not that it was strong or it was, because obviously you have a story about uh, a black character here being written and drawn exclusively by white people. It's obviously not your ideal kind of representation. But what I'm saying is like you're seeing this subject matter come to the fore in the mid '90s here on a book like this. And of course, the X-Men kind of deal with it in the sense that here you have mutants. Mutants are kind of viewed as the other, and they're dealing with discrimination at a kind of genetic level, which is similar to, I guess, could draw parallels to, racial minorities, the X-Men as well. Um, but it kind of was different. X-Men had a different, again, they're dealing in the sort of this fictional reality, whereas here Steel was a real a black character from a real kind of environment, or I shouldn't say real, but metropolis, right? The urban kind of issues of metropolis coming to the fore are just like what you'd see in any urban environment here in America. And yeah, the again, I think it's a nice little window into kind of the times here. How they would handle a story about a Superman from the hood. Um, and there you go. You have a great enduring character in John Henry Irons. So uh, hope they do more with John Henry Irons. And I hope they do, have, because I know they have like Asian Superman and Black Superman. Let's have a whole rainbow coalition of Superman if that needs to happen. But you know, um, let's be more progressive on. Doesn't have to be Superman. I'm just making the point. Like, let's do more with characters that are from different backgrounds, and put them in situations where they can be uh, a hero or protagonist in a comic book. So that's all it is. Yeah, fortunately I do too. It's just all over the news sometimes with somebody being shot out, a road rage incident, or being held up in their home, or just kind of a lot of like just desperate people, unfortunately. And that's, you know, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it just goes back to a lot of people just they just are, you kind of can lose your mind sometimes. And I think for the kids that grew up in those kinds of like kind of broken homes, these are the kids or the people that become adults, and they unfortunately do these kinds of things. They think it's okay to do these kinds of things to other people, which is completely not the case. All right, well, that is our reading session for this week, and I kind of want to do more. I want to do more maybe this week in terms of just hopping on when I have some leeway to do it. But again, I feel like this just having the day off today from courses being its President's Day and getting my work done, I found a nice little kind of window to do it. But just hoping that window comes back by Friday. I have a feeling like starting tomorrow on, it's just going to be mostly reading and doing work in the evening. So I'm gearing up for Friday, Ron. Hopefully I'll see you Friday. But have a great week. Happy President's Day. Stay safe, my friend. Awesome. Take care.